Hi, HR Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives from the world's leading global brands. We've got two amazing guests that are joining us today. We're joined by Liane Hornsey, Chief HR Officer at Palo Alto Networks, and Lynne Oldham, Chief People Officer at Zoom. Welcome. How are you both?
Feeling not so good. Remember, I'm in the UK and I'm British, and yesterday we didn't win the Euros. And the sky is lightening up and there's thunder rolling. So I hope this is going to be fun.
Does that mean you stayed up like crazy late, by the way, Liane? What time was it when you... I just made the connection of what time was it where you were?
No, I'm in the UK at the moment, Chris.
Oh, you're okay. Oh, okay. I thought you was in California. I was like, what time was that? Did you watch it, Lynne?
I did not, no.
What time was it your time? Like 6 a.m. or something crazy? Something along those lines?
Something like that.
Something like that. Well, let's forget about the football. Let's put it behind us. We don't have a good track record, and we've done good though. We should be proud of the team. Really inspiring. After the last 15 months that we've had, it was nice to have that in our lives. Although it didn't end how we wanted, it was great as well. But before we go any further, I'd love to, if you could, each of you could share your kind of personal journey and experience to where we are now. That'd be amazing. And then we'll go from there. I'll jump on for yourself first, Liane. That'd be great.
Of course, like most people who are in the people team and leading a people team, I did not start in the people team. I started life in sales, and I sold very delicate medical equipment that's used only for men. I don't think I should say any more than that. I loved sales. I moved into marketing. I did more studying, and I moved into strategy. And I was running a whole sort of piece of the business. And one day my CEO came to me and said, "You got to go into HR." And honestly, Chris, I nearly died. It was like, "You can't do that thing to me. You can't do it to me. Am I really that bad?" And he went, "No, you're just really mean to everyone. You got to go into HR, so you're going to become a consummate leader." And honestly, I went into HR really not happy. And this is many years ago. I've loved it ever since. I love what we do. I love the impact we can have. I just adore every working day. The difference, the breadth, the strategy, the sort of knowledge of what's going on in the business. It's amazing. So no, I didn't start out on this path, but loving every second.
Amazing. I would never have known that from all the conversations that I've spoken to you before. Your passion shines through. But I can say that that's not uncommon to speak to leaders. Are like, "Oh, I think you'd be good in HR." They're like, "Really?" As well. What about yourself, Lynne?
Oh goodness, it goes way back. But my mother suggested that I go to school for nursing, and I was on my way to my bachelor's in nursing when we got to the point where we had to give each other shots. I decided right then and there, after I probably gave a few, got a few, said, this is just not for me. And I had gotten in high school best average in business. So, and I don't know why I didn't pursue it. It was it's a long story, but ultimately I switched majors and finished my degree in business finance. And then my first job out of university, they were interested in me because I had worked my way through school working in a hospital, and I had this business degree, and they said, "Oh boy, she gets medical stuff, and we're going to hire her as the benefits administrator." So that was my first job out of university, was a benefits administration job in a small company in New York, right off the New York Thruway. Yeah. So, and then I went on, I had the law degree, but I worked as a lawyer for a while, and I didn't like that either. So I came back to HR. So it's been really my love. Really fascinated by how to make a business tick through the lens of people. And that's what really it makes all of this very exciting for me.
Amazing. I never would have guessed again. Lawyer. How does a lawyer become a chief people officer? That's an interesting one. How did you both meet? And then what prompted the design of Flexwork?
It's very simple. We had the view that post the pandemic, work would never be the same again. Way back when the pandemic started, we thought this is going to be a thing. We don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be a thing, and the nature of work will change. And my CEO said to me, "Look, I really think this is bigger than Palo Alto Networks. We can do some super cool stuff. but really we should be working with others to change the nature of work and to change how we think about work. Our CEOs introduced each other with a few others, and we started the coalition. And it was really interesting to hear Mark Andreessen say the other day that he thinks that the pandemic is going to have a greater impact on the nature of work than the internet. This is how huge this thing could be in terms of how we change the nature of work and how work moves going forward. So the aim of the coalition was basically to put some smart people in a room together to work it out, because none of us had ever seen it before, to try some different things, to open source everything, and to be completely open to working with other companies to just work this damn thing through.
And I think we felt we were size-wise the right companies to really move quickly. I mean, all of our companies are fast-moving, so we can turn the speedboat faster than you can the barge or the battleship. So we thought that experimentation would be ripe for our companies and the companies we work with.
It's pretty incredible. Even the idea of you all working together as large organizations and being super transparent and open source, that in itself is very disruptive.
I'm super proud of it. You know, I say to everybody that one of my proudest moments around all of this is we have no agenda. We have nothing to gain. There's no business agenda. There's no financial agenda other than we think this is the right thing to do. And it's been wonderful. I mean, really genuinely wonderful watching different companies come together, you know, under that banner of we open source, we'll talk, we'll learn together, we'll fail together, we'll win together. And even that, as you say, is a new approach.
It's interesting because I remember when I first came across it, I was like, what's the angle here? I was like, where's the sell? As well, but it wasn't. So what do you think is the biggest challenges that companies are going to face now as we start to emerge from the pandemic?
You know, what we've seen vis-a-vis Flexwork is that no one size fits all. And so each company really has to dig into who they are, what they need, what their employees need, and marry those two things together to make the perfect recipe for them. And I think that's one challenge. I think the other challenge is just the idea that this will not be, an overnight success. We've got to work at it. There's nothing that we are going to do and just say we're hybrid and then it's just going to work. There are things that we have to put in place. There are things that have to be continuously done from a learning and development perspective and an onboarding perspective to make sure that it's successful.
Yeah, I mean, I will build on that, Lynne. I completely agree with absolutely everything you've said. I think the biggest concern for me is that if and when we can say the pandemic's over and everybody is safe to come back to work, managers who feel the need to revert and have a strong sense of control will forget the learning of the last 18 months. And let's be super clear about what the learning is. There is no data that I have read that tells me productivity has dipped during working remotely. Nothing. I've seen nothing from anybody. And yet I see companies that I respect saying people have got to come back to the office. And so I think there will be a moment when companies are going to have to face how much of the change and how much of what they saw was possible are they going to hang on to and make real, and are they going to let things revert? And I think, it's a little bit like Lynne said, her major was in business. This is a business issue. And so in order to work through that tension and that reversion, we need really solid business cases and really solid business plans. Lynne said it right. This will not just now be different. It won't. We will really need to manage the micro to make sure that we continue with the gains that we've made.
I'm also seeing companies make a mistake where they just feel like they can turn on the hybrid and it's just going to work.
Yeah.
We're gone hybrid now, and expect things just to. I made the same mistake as well when we've seen realize the systems, processes, even our culture, and we actually sat down with a team and actually rewrote out our values and our why of the organization, because that also shifted a little bit with the way we work, and we started hiring talent recently, and I was like, wow, this kind of model that we had before, our entire our proposition to attract talent's completely changed as an organization as well. What do you think is going to happen then to those organizations that don't make the shift and that slowly go back to how we worked beforehand?
I think they're going to face an uphill battle or what do you call it, headwinds in the marketplace of talent. You know, everybody I talk to, I'm sure Liane's in the same boat. Employees are expecting something to come out of this. And if your employer just says, return to status quo, I think that's going to be, they're going to face a huge headwind.
I completely agree. And we're seeing it. So we're seeing it in the financial sector in New York, right? We're seeing companies saying, you got to get back, and employees going, whoa, wait a sec. We're even seeing it in the Valley. Big companies, household names saying you got to come back, and employees going, whoa, wait a minute. I think there will be an excess of talent because people will want to work for companies, not just that offer hybrid, by the way. It's almost the symbol of putting employees first. So forcing employees to do something and taking something away from them that they had, even if they actually want it, even if they want to be in the office 5 days a week, is still symbolic of a treatment that I and Lynne and many others don't think is the way that we should be working. And so I think those companies who try to force employees to do what they don't want to do, people march with their feet. And on the other side, those of us who say, hang on a sec, there's a degree of choice here, there's a degree of certain choice over location, will absolutely tap into the best talent pools. And that has got to give us a competitive advantage business-wise. I'm
actually hiring an assistant at the moment, and it was really interesting to see on the application, people are now defining it, that they want to work in a company, but like 70% of the applications to the job were people that said, I want to work hybrid. And they were very clear about that on their CV. And I was like, wow, I found that really refreshing. But it just goes to show, just in my small company, 70% of the people that I was interviewing wanted to have that flexibility. It was a deal breaker for those organizations, which was really cool to see that updated right front and center on the top of their CV, that this is a must have. And I'm seeing the same thing down in Canary Wharf, obviously financial capital here in the UK. It's deserted. And I know companies, I'm not going to mention it now, but I had a few interviews recently with a number of CEOs from those companies, CHROs, and one of them came on the show. We did a LinkedIn Live and got a lot of heat because the show was around why everyone's returned to the work. And this is why we're doing it. It's a big company. I don't want to mention it now because we've got a lot of trouble in the first place for posting the first one. Although they agreed to come on the show, I just didn't think they understood the reaction that people would get, especially on social media. And the reasons for coming back is, we're an in-office culture. We're, you probably guess what I'm going to say next, but in-office culture was one of the main ones why everyone has to come back.
My pushback on that is, what does that even mean? Like, describe that to me. What is it that you do that when you're in an office that you can't do as we're doing now?
Coaching was I asked that exact question, by the way, Liane. And
punching or coaching?
Coaching.
I thought you said punching.
No, punching. No. The answer to that was coaching. They said, Chris, we feel like it's important to have the new generation in the workforce so we can coach, knowledge pollinate that knowledge across the organization, etc. That was
But you can make that happen, Chris. That does not have to be exclusive to the office. And in fact, I would suggest that a manager who can't make that happen needs some coaching themselves, right? So, and that's what I was talking about earlier, about this idea of, if you choose this as your path, flexibility, hybrid, whatever you call it, that's the kind of assistance you're going to have to give to the workforce, including the managers. But, just building on your point, you said 70% of the people who applied to your role, let's assume, depending on the role, that drops to somewhere around 50. If you're an employer who says, oh, we're back the way it was before, you're cutting off your access to 50%, say. If it's 70, it's 70, but somewhere between, some numbers, you're cutting off your access to that talent pool. That's crazy. This is a time when everybody's looking for the best talent, and you're automatically taking some of the workforce out of that equation. I was reading an article over the weekend in the New Yorker. It's an old one about Best Buy. Best Buy did this like a lot of years ago. They reverted, but they did this a lot of years ago, and they called it results only work environment. And they proved that they could save millions in turnover, lack of turnover. So it's not only the access to how much of the workforce wants something more flexible, but then once you get them in the door, it's a way to keep people. So it's really something, if you're not thinking about it, you definitely have to be. And I know that sounds self-serving as Zoom, but trust me, we work in hybrid, we work in the office. We were a company before the pandemic, for sure.
No, I'll give you a family-based example, and this is God's honest truth. 20 minutes before coming on this call, I got a WhatsApp from my daughter who's in New York saying, "It's amazing. TikTok have said I only need to go back a certain few days a week." And she said, "And now I'm going to stay at TikTok and I'm going to love TikTok forever." That's exactly, that's what she said to her mom, because she does not want to be on the tube commuting in the rain and the cold and 5 days a week, and most people don't. So it was so fascinating because she said, "And I love TikTok." She's a Gen Z, she's a young kid, and to her it would be a deal breaker.
I have working children as well, and I did a post in LinkedIn last week because I was reading this article about parents and how they felt about going back to work, if that's indeed what their company wanted them to do. And I was thinking exactly what your wife and what you feel, Chris, and what I'm sure Liane felt. I never felt like I was a good enough mom or a good enough employee. I was always in this between state, because you can't, you want to do it all, but you're never feeling good about the balancing act, right?
I think building on that though, Chris, I think it's really important that as we come out of the pandemic, we don't just, and I've seen many people do this, focus on location. There is no doubt that this moment in time gives us more flexibility on where people work, no question. But the whole purpose, the whole point of Flexwork is it also opens our eyes to other ways that we can flex business. So we can flex our benefits, we can flex our learning, we can make so much more personal and individual than it's ever been before. And I think what's the fundamental tenet of Flexwork is we proved something a paradigm that everybody believed to be true, that you had to be in an office to be productive and to be capable. Our employees proved it's not true. And so for me, Flexwork is, if you can knock down that paradigm, goodness knows how many more you can knock down. And I think those companies that embrace this moment as an opportunity to do more for the individual, more around choice, more about what I would call the emotional contract with the employee, they're going to be the ones that will be successful. So I think some companies will fixate on location. I think we've got so much more opportunity.
It's been 15 months now since we've kind of been on this journey. What's been each of your biggest learnings, personally and professionally?
I'm just going to say what you've already said, which is remote work does not mean a lack of productivity. I feel like the results are happening even though we're not in the same place or in locations together. So that was, I think, the biggest aha, probably relatively early on, that we were sort of maintaining this, like Liane said, this sort of way of working, because we thought it was the way of working, and turns out we can still produce like we are. So it's the biggest aha that really drives me to think about what this can be out the other end.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all going to say the same. Remote working doesn't have the perils that we all, including me, by the way. One of the first things I did when I joined my company was ask, who's working from home and why? I want to understand it. I want to know what the hell's going on, right? So all of us, we've shifted our paradigm. But I guess the biggest learning for me actually is when things are bad in people's lives, And the pandemic, it's a bad thing. And there is a loss of control in the macro environment. A company and how you treat your employees can go some way to filling that void and making life just that little bit better. And those companies that will win out are the companies that really believe that, and the companies that treat their employees with the respect that they deserve. And that has been, I sort of knew it intellectually, but I've seen it in practice, and it's huge learning for me.
What are you most looking forward to then moving forward over the next 6 to 12 months? What are you most excited about?
But I'm excited about so many things, so I'm going to go first. I do tend to be rather excitable when I can see change. I love change. I love disruption. I truly am excited because I think the nature of work can change. I think that is amazing. You've heard me say it before. I don't think the nature of work has changed for 40, 50 years. Now it can. That in and of itself is literally mind-blowing. If it comes down to what I'm really, really, really excited about, though, if I had to pick one thing, it's the ability to tap into greater diverse talent pools rather than just keep fishing in the same damn pond. I think this could have real, honestly, truly, I don't want to be like too grand. I think it could have major societal impact. And I think that is, that's gut-wrenching exciting for me. So for me, that's the big thing. And that's one of the reasons that I am so passionate about making sure that we do fish in those very, very different ponds that are absolutely full of brilliant people that we haven't been able to access. That's going to just be fundamentally amazing.
I would say +1 to everything Liane said. Those are really the most exciting things that are going to come out of this. And every day I wake up, I'm reading on LinkedIn, reading articles. Everybody, this is a movement, and it's exciting to be part of the movement. I said that when we started Flexwork, like what a time, right? Absolutely, the pandemic was a horrible way for this to all come about, but what an exciting time to be in the world of work and watching from our seats and catalyzing from our seats what this can be at post-pandemic. So all exciting.
I'm also excited to what it means to my daughter. She's only nearly 3 years old, but I'm like envisioning, what does work look like? When she's an adult. Will there even be job titles or functions or offices? The idea of an office, imagine trying to explain to my daughter, there used to be these headquarters where everyone used to go and yet you have to work there. That's probably going to be very foreign to that generation, that work was a place that where you went to, as opposed to the outcome or the value as well. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like as well. When talking about, I'm hiring an assistant now. The person I'm hiring actually is from Ukraine. So like I never would have looked for an assistant in Ukraine before or tapped in. And this person was amazing, like perfect fit, all the experience I could ever dream of. And I was like, I would never have looked outside of London or Greenwich where I am now as well. So it's really cool just to, again, even as a small organization, to see the benefits. If we talk about Zoom's values and your differentiators in the marketplace, what has that opened up for both of your organization and Palo Alto Networks as well?
Yeah, I mean, for us, there's only 2 words on the wall in our lobby. It's we care. And so what all we're talking about really does fit in our values set, because, when you think about what do employees want and making sure you're really listening and responding to what you're hearing, that's all about caring. So it's really worked rather well, and culturally, it's helped us really attract really great talent during the pandemic, because we've been having to continue to hire at a pretty decent clip. So I think that's the exciting part about all of this, is that our culture and our values really match with what we're doing during this time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say any more than that, Chris. I think it's just, I think it's really brilliant to be working for a company that wants to do good things for employees. And I think obviously there will be employer brand advantage, But that's not why we've done this. We've done this because, Lynne's value of we care is a similar value for us, right? We've done it for very good reasons. And, this is not a commercial enterprise at all. Just not. It's just that we have the opportunity to do something that is really, really disruptive.
Before I let you go, where can people learn more about Flexwork, and also what have you got coming up? Because you've got so many amazing events on the calendar and things that people can look forward to. But firstly, where can they find out more? And then secondly, what you've got coming up that they can look forward to?
I'll give a plug to the website because that's really where folks can find not only the case studies we've done, but some articles that have been written, some video casts we've done. That's the place to enroll if you want to be part of the movement. It's flexwork.life. And please join us, because even if you're not able to, make this meeting or that meeting, the information will flow to you by signing up. Liane, you want to talk about our next event? Very exciting.
So what we try to do is make sure, so we've got a number of members, and what we try to do is ask the members what is the most useful topic we can discuss. We poll the members all the time, and members use the term loosely. People that affiliate with us for whatever reason. And then we just bring experts together to, talk about that specific issue. So one of the issues that people have been really battling with is, how should our leaders act during this? What do we need of leadership? So we've had Dave Ulrich, and we've had David Rock, and we've had Liz Wiseman, just talking about what does that mean. But more importantly than that, we've also had lots of small group work where we just sit together and go, what the blooming heck does it mean? And we've really seriously learned from each other. So what I love about our consortium is many of you won't be in the luxurious position that Lynne and I are both in, where our leadership are just fully on board and gung-ho with what we're doing. But if you feel that, you need to influence your leadership, or you've got questions, it's a great place to come. Half the people, I'm guessing half the companies that we affiliate with are really struggling with their leadership, or struggling with some of the things that they need to do. And it's a safe place. There's no minutes, there's no recorded names. It's just, let's get together and let's learn. And our next event, I think, is going to be just a knockout event, because it's our two CEOs who were sort of the authors of this in so many ways, just talking about how, from their perspective, work has changed and how we really need to embrace that. So we've got nothing to gain from this other than it's the right thing to do. And I would love more and more people to think this is the right thing to do, to just get together and work this out together.
Honestly, I'm so excited for all the work that you're doing. And every single time I speak to a HR leader, I'm telling them to go over to the website. I'm like, and they're like, how much is it, Chris? I'm like, it's free. They're like, really? I'm like, yes, get involved. There's now more than ever, we need to come together. And because no one has all the answers, and no one's pretending to have all the answers. And that's why we're coming together to do. And that's why I created this entire podcast in the first place, was to share experience and knowledge to help each other. So if anyone listening, if you click the link below, there's a link to the website. There's also a link for the event. So go and do that now. Also, make sure you follow Liane and Lynne on LinkedIn as well. They post great content there. But apart from that, thank you so much for taking the time out to join me, and keep up the amazing work, because what you're doing is literally changing people's lives. And that's not me exaggerating whatsoever.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's been a total joy.
Thank you. Yes. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.